My sister-in-law asked us for a short-term loan to cover her daughter's private school tuition. I just found out she used that exact amount as a down payment on a luxury timeshare in Cabo. It's just for the upcoming fall semester. Clara, my sister-in-law Brenda, had pleaded, her eyes wide and glossy as she sat at my kitchen island, holding a mug of herbal tea. The private academy changed their payment structure, and if I don't submit the enrollment deposit by this Friday, my daughter Lily will lose her spot in the honors track. I'm just waiting on my quarterly consulting bonus to clear next month. I wouldn't ask if it weren't an emergency. I remember looking at my husband, Mark. He was already reaching into his pocket, his protective big brother instincts completely overriding his financial caution. I am a senior compliance officer for a local credit union. Every day, I analyze risk, verify disclosures, and look behind the curtain of asset declarations. My professional life is built on skepticism, but my personal life was built on supporting family. I knew how hard Lily worked, and the last thing I wanted to do was let a temporary cash flow glitch derail my niece's education. We discussed it in whisper tones in the hallway. Mark and I had been disciplined, saving every spare dollar from our dual salaries to build a secure emergency fund and prep for our own financial goals. She's my sister, Clara, Mark had whispered, his hands on my shoulders. She's never asked us for a dime before. We have the liquidity right now. It's for Lily's future. I swallowed my professional reservations, nodded, and processed a personal, interest-free loan transfer of $12,000 directly into Brenda's checking account the following morning. Brenda sent me a text filled with crying emojis, calling us her saviors, and promising that the full amount would be returned the moment her bonus hit the ledger in July. For 3 weeks, we lived under the quiet satisfaction of having done the right thing for family. We went back to our strict budget, feeling a little lighter, knowing our niece was secure in her private academy classroom. The reality of that $12,000 emergency unraveled into a high-definition vacation display at exactly 1:15 p.m. yesterday. Because of my senior position at the credit union, I am responsible for reviewing high-value international transaction flags within our regional network to ensure domestic compliance. Yesterday afternoon, a standard cross-border merchant file landed on my desk for an out-of-network luxury lifestyle entity called Cabo Paradise Sol LLC. The merchant profile itself wasn't the issue. What caught my eye was the secondary internal notification flag. The primary billing address associated with the routing transfer belonged to our regional zip code. When I opened the underlying ledger file to verify the compliance metadata, my breath instantly hitched in my throat. The primary cardholder name listed on the luxury international transaction wasn't a corporate client. It was Brenda Miller. The transaction amount was exactly $12,000, and the date of the authorized transfer? The exact same afternoon, the loan funds from our personal emergency savings had cleared into her checking account. My hand shook slightly against my keyboard as I pulled up the merchant category codes. This wasn't an education provider, a tuition clearinghouse, or a private academy enrollment portal. Cabo Paradise Sol LLC was a premier fractional ownership resort network. Brenda hadn't paid a single dollar toward Lily's private school tuition. She had used our hard-earned emergency fund as the primary down payment on a luxury vacation timeshare in Cabo San Lucas. The sheer calculation of the lie left me entirely numb. She had sat at my kitchen counter, invoked her daughter's education, and played on her brother's emotional vulnerability. Also, she could secure a premium week at a beachfront resort. When I drove home that evening, the suburban streets looked perfectly normal, but inside my chest, the cold, analytical clarity of my banking background had completely replaced my empathy. Mark was in the garage, fixing a lawnmower, humming to himself. "Hey, honey," he said, wiping grease from his hands as I walked in. "How was the branch today?" I set my leather briefcase down on the workbench, pulling out a copy of the Certified Merchant Receipt Archive. "Mark, you need to step inside. We need to look at Brenda's quarterly bonus." Mark sat at our dining room table, his eyes darting across the printed transaction log. For a long time, he just stared at the name Cabo Paradise Sol LLC and the matching $12,000 figure, his face transitioning from absolute confusion to a deep, radiating paleness. "This has to be a mistake," he muttered, his voice cracking as he looked up at me. "Maybe she used her own credit card for a vacation and she's using our loan for the school separately. She wouldn't lie about Lily's education, Clara. She knows how hard we work for our money." "Look at the timestamp, Mark," I said gently, sitting beside him and pointing to the digital log lines. The funds we transferred cleared into her checking account at 10:14 a.m. This international wire transfer to the timeshare resort was authorized at 2:45 p.m. that exact same afternoon. Her checking balance prior to our loan was less than $300. Our emergency fund bought her a vacation property. Mark sank back into his chair, burying his face in his hands. The silence in our home was heavy, punctuated only by his shallow, ragged breathing. The sister he had protected his entire life had used his love for his niece as a weapon to extract 5 figures from our household balance sheet. What do we do? He whispered, looking thoroughly defeated. Do I call her? Do I confront her? We aren't doing this over the phone, and we aren't going to let her spin another narrative about a delayed corporate bonus, I said, my professional compliance training taking over where his heart was failing. Brenda is hosting the family's pre-summer barbecue this Friday night. Your mother will be there, and your brother Todd will be there. We are going to let her serve the meal, and then we are going to present the audit. The next 48 hours required an immense amount of discipline. Mark went to his job like a ghost, coming home to sit quietly in the study, while I spent that time structuring the legal parameters of our repayment demand. I didn't want a shouting match, and I didn't want an emotional performance. I wanted our $12,000 back inside our secure credit union account. Brenda's backyard was beautiful on Friday evening. The scent of grilled chicken filled the air, and classic rock music drifted from the patio speakers. Brenda was the picture of a successful, carefree suburban mom, wearing a bright new dress and pouring glasses of Pinot Grigio for her guests. Clara, Mark, you made it, she cheered, jogging down the patio steps to greet us. Lily just got her final report card, and she's officially confirmed for the honors track next year. We couldn't have done it without you guys. Mark looked at her, his expression completely detached, his face a mask of quiet, profound exhaustion. That's great, Brenda. Can we step inside the house for a minute? I want to see the new layout you did in the dining room. Oh, sure, Brenda said, completely oblivious to the shift in atmosphere as she ushered us inside, leaving Todd and her mother Eleanor chatting by the grill. The moment the sliding glass door clicked shut, isolating us in her quiet, air-conditioned kitchen, I reached into my tote bag and pulled out 3 bound copies of the regional wire transfer ledger. I placed one on the granite kitchen island directly in front of her. What's this? Brenda asked, her smile faltering just a fraction as her eyes scanned the official credit union letterhead. That is the compliance record for Cabo Paradise Sol LLC, I said, keeping my tone perfectly professional, standard auditing voice. It shows that our $12,000 educational loan was converted into a luxury timeshare acquisition within 4 hours of leaving our account. The color completely drained from Brenda's face, leaving her looking suddenly haggard under the kitchen pendant lights. She dropped her wine glass onto the counter, her fingers trembling. Clara, you used your bank position to spy on my personal finances? That is a total violation of my privacy. I will call your regional director. The transaction flagged an automatic cross-border merchant review within our domestic zip code network, Brenda, I responded calmly. It appeared on my compliance queue as part of my standard workday duties. Your privacy wasn't violated. Your fraud was simply archived. Mark, tell her to back off, Brenda hissed, turning frantically to her brother, her voice rising into a sharp, defensive register. It was a short-term investment strategy. The timeshare company had a limited-time bonus structure that closes this month. I used the capital to lock in the asset, and my consulting bonus is still coming in July to pay for Lily's school. I didn't steal anything. You lied to me, Brenda, Mark said, his voice quiet, steady, and holding a deep, crushing sorrow that cut right through her frantic excuses. You sat at my kitchen table and used my niece's future to trick me into giving you our emergency savings. You watched me worry about Lily's enrollment while you were planning a vacation. It's a real estate asset, Mark, she claimed, her hands waving defensively. It builds value for the whole family. It's a luxury timeshare with a 90% depreciation rate, Brenda, I interjected, sliding a secondary legal document across the granite counter. And right now, it is a material breach of a verbal loan contract under false pretenses. This folder contains a formal, notarized demand for immediate repayment. The sliding door opened behind us, and Eleanor walked in, looking confused by the heavy, suffocating silence in the room. Is everything all right in here? The food is getting cold. Everything is perfectly clear, Eleanor, I said, turning to my mother-in-law. Brenda used our daughter's potential tuition fund to buy a vacation property in Mexico, and we are currently establishing the compliance framework for her to return the principal. Eleanor's mouth opened in shock, her eyes darting between her children. Brenda looked down at the granite island, realized her script of innocent, struggling motherhood had completely collapsed under the weight of audited data. If you don't return the full $12,000 by noon on Monday, Brenda, I told her firmly, we file a formal civil petition for conversion of funds, backed by the certified wire transfer trail. We will also submit the transaction flags to the State Real Estate Regulatory Board to review the funding source of your Cabo contract. The silence in the kitchen stretched until Brenda finally slumped against the counter, her defensive arrogance completely evaporating. She looked small, stripped of her carefree suburban veneer, exposed as someone who valued luxury appearances over family integrity. Fine, she muttered, staring down at the paperwork, refusing to look her brother in the eye. I'll authorize the cancellation of the timeshare contract tomorrow morning during their grace period. You'll have your money back by Monday afternoon. We will be verifying the settlement line at the branch, Brenda, I replied, gathering my copies of the folders and placing them back inside my bag. Come on, Mark, we're done here. We didn't stay for the barbecue, and we didn't offer a single dramatic farewell. We walked out of her house, climbed into our car, and drove home in a quiet that felt entirely different from the heavy anxiety of the past 3 weeks. This quiet was cold, but it was incredibly clean. By 2 p.m. on Monday, the automated notification popped up on my desktop monitor at the credit union branch. The $12,000 had been fully returned to our emergency savings account via an official wire transfer, completely cleared and unencumbered. This evening, Mark and I sat out on our backyard patio, watching the sunset over the neighborhood trees. He looked lighter, his shoulders finally relaxed after weeks of carrying his sister's hidden manipulation. The balance sheet is completely restored, I said, setting my teacup down on the small patio table. Our emergency fund is back where it belongs. Mark reached across the table and took my hand, his grip warm and incredibly steady. Thank you, Clara, for not letting me double down on a lie, for keeping our household safe when my emotions were getting in the way. We keep each other safe, Mark, I reminded him gently, looking out at our quiet, peaceful yard. That's what our marriage is built on. We still have a long road of family boundary reconstruction ahead of us. The relationship with Brenda is permanently fractured, reduced to formal, brief compliance on holidays, and the extended family dynamic remains tense. But as I watched my husband walk inside to start dinner, I knew that the ledger had finally been settled. We weren't funding her luxury illusions anymore. We were finally standing on our own solid ground.